So Resident Evil Requiem is coming out soon, like very soon. As I'm writing this, it is currently 2 whole Fridays away from release. After witnessing each trailer for the game, as well as gameplay showcases, my hype for this game has went through the roof. As one does, I decided to go back and play every single Resident Evil that is ever released. But then I came up with an idea. Throughout the years, there have been many skilled and talented players making YouTube videos or streaming Resident Evil live and showcasing their ability to speedrun or flawlessly beat each game on the hardest difficulty. And I have been greatly inspired by these players and came up with my own challenge. I have decided to play every single Resident Evil in the mainline canonical order, all played on their respected hardest difficulties. Now you could say this challenge isn't really all that difficult, so I decided to lay down some rules. Rule number 1, each game has to be played within the order of the story's canon. So one moment I will be playing and completing, say, Resident Evil 0. Then I need to switch to the Umbrella Chronicles game to then play the beginnings chapter before moving into Resident Evil 1. Rule number 2, I have to receive all achievements for mainly the games available on Steam. Some of the older titles I'll be playing are like the Outbreak Files, Survivor, Dead Aim, and Code Veronica. When these games were released, there was no achievement or trophy system, so I will compensate by obtaining the trophies for the remakes and the games on Steam. I do know about achievements existing for, say, the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360 version of Code Veronica, as well as Umbrella and Darkside Chronicles, or even the Retro Achievements mod, but again, for my marathon, I will not be counting those. Only the achievements for the games that will be played on Steam, which is still 572 achievements that must be unlocked. Final rule is that all of this has to be completed before February 27th, the release of Requiem. While playing these games, I will also give myself some optional challenges. I will be playing each game aiming for an S rank for all games that have a ranking system, and will be attempting to minimize as much damage as possible throughout these runs, or just avoid death completely. Will I succeed? Probably not. At the end of the day, I have way more experience in specific titles in comparison to the other ones, so it probably won't go too well for me. But hey, the fun part will be the challenge and scares that will catch me off guard throughout my journey. This is going to be a very special experience for me, since growing up I have always had a strong passion for all things Resident Evil. I'll never forget getting my first PlayStation 2 for Christmas along with a copy of Resident Evil 4. I used to be so afraid to even move through the game without having my dad there to play it with me or just play the game for me. And as I've grown, witnessing each title release, it has only furthered my love more and more for this franchise. While growing up playing these games myself, I of course grew up watching other amazing creators play these titles. Watching Maximilian Dude base skits around these characters for Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and watching his live streams of the games, listening to video essays from the Sphere Hunter, or watching live streams of speedruns and challenge runs surrounding the games. It has all felt like home for me. Resident Evil Requiem will be a special game, and going through this entire franchise will be a special experience. Along the way, I will be sharing this experience with close friends of mine once we reach the multiplayer titles like Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6. All of these games will be streamed live on my Twitch at WestPTB, with the marathon officially starting on February 18th, as well as being here on my YouTube channel with full edited gameplays as well as compilations. I will be dedicating this marathon as a love letter firstly to my father for introducing me to the franchise, to the fans of Resident Evil, and of course to Capcom. So, let's take a look at our lineup. Kicking off the first day of our marathon, we have Resident Evil 0, the Umbrella Chronicles Beginnings chapter, Resident Evil 1 with both Chris and Jill's campaign, Umbrella Chronicles Rebirth, and finally Outbreak Files 1 and 2. For the second day of our marathon, we will have Resident Evil 3 Remake, and then Resident Evil 2 Remake, Leon First, Claire Second, the fourth Survivor DLC in Resident Evil 2 Remake, and finally Umbrella Chronicles Death's Door. Day 3, we have Resident Evil Survivor, Code Veronica, Darkside Chronicles Operation Javier, Dead Aim, Umbrella Chronicles Umbrella's End, and Dark Legacy. Day 4 is completely dedicated to Resident Evil 4, starting with a Resident Evil 4 Remake and then RE4 Remake separate ways. Day 5, we will start with Resident Evil Revelations 1, Resident Evil 5 Lost in Nightmares DLC, the Resident Evil 5 base game, Resident Evil 5 Desperate Escape, and Resident Evil Revelations 2. Day 6 will be dedicated to Resident Evil 6, starting off with Jake's campaign, then moving to Chris's campaign, Leon's campaign, and finally Ada's campaign. Day 7 will start with Resident Evil 7 Daughters DLC, then we're going to take a brief switch to Umbrella Corps. Very excited to play that game. Moving back to Resident Evil 7, the Beginning Hour demo, Bedroom DLC, the 21 DLC, the Resident Evil 7 base game, Not a Hero DLC, and then the end of Zoe. And then finally, the last day of the marathon will be dedicated to Resident Evil 8, starting with the base game Resident Evil Village, and then finishing off with the Shadows of Rose DLC. Now, for the time being, throughout these next couple of days, I'm going to be doing a little bit of practice for some titles I'm not very familiar with for the sake of efficiency, since like I said, it is only a matter of time before Requiem's release. Anyway, can't wait to see you all there. As always, this has been WestPTB, and I'll catch you at the marathon, I guess. Shit.